This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We move on to, we're learning now Maimer Beis of the Sefer Maggid Harakiah. We mentioned that if anybody wants to get a hold of the Sefer, go to TorahAnytime.com and go to speakers, go to Glatstein, and there's a link there. You could order the Sefer. It's only $20, free shipping to anywhere in the United States. If you want to send it to anybody you know, that is available. Okay, so we're continuing on the theme that we learned in the last year from the Shlach Kadosh, that every day of Chodesh Nissan has independent Kedusha, has the Kedusha of Rosh Chodesh. Every single day of Chodesh Nissan is considered like Rosh Chodesh. The Avnei Nezer and the Tshuvas Avnei Nezer and Archaim Siman Shin Lamed Vav, he writes regarding a letter that someone sent him. He says, I got your honorable letter, and you asked me to respond regarding some questions about Pesach, but it's very, even though the questions are very difficult, and it's very hard to respond. And the Avnei Nezer says a wondrous lashon. Ki yomim elu yikrei ha'erech. These days of Nissan are precious of value. Sha liyoim yechashev. An hour is considered like a day. But since you asked me to respond to you, I'm going to respond as an oineg and simchas yom tov. From the Avnei Nezer we learn something remarkable, that there's a special value placed on the Zman of Chodesh Nisan. Every single hour of Chodesh Nisan is considered like an entire day. If you look in the official biography on the Avnei Nezer and the Aber Haroyim, Chelek Beis Ois Reish Samach Daled, you could see over there what the Shem Shmuel was made on his father. He says, my father, when the Yemei Nisan came, he was very torod, and he was thinking and contemplating and meditating. So let's try to understand this. What is so valuable? What is the chashivos? What is the special yakar and special worth of the Zman of Chodesh Nisan more than any other time? Okay, now Rabbi Sai, Klal Yisrael and the whole world finds itself in a very difficult matzav, but we're all yearning for Geula, we're all matzape leGeula, we're all pining for the Geula. After all, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, the Gemara brings the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, B'Nisan nigalu, u'B'Nisan asilan ligoyal. And the question is, why? We know in life there's a principle, past performance is no indication of future outcome. So just because the month of Nisan was the time of our Geula, the first time around, how in any way does that indicate that it should also be as Man Geula the second time around? Just because Hashem redeemed us the first time, why does that mean Hashem will necessarily redeem us in the month of Nisan the second time around? There's a pasuk in last week's Parsha, Parshas Pekudei, Shemois Parak Mem, Pasuk Beis. It talks about the erection of the Mishkan. It says, B'yoim, on the day HaChodesh Harishon, on the day of the first month. Be'echad LaChodesh, on the first day of the month. Takim es Mishkan Oyel Moed. You should erect the tabernacle, the Oyel Moed. This pasuk is an impossible pasuk. What does it mean, B'yoim, on the day of the first month? What does it mean, on the day of the first month? It should say, B'chodesh Harishon, on the first month, Be'echad LaChodesh. What does it mean, on the day of the first month? It doesn't make any sense. What does it mean, on the day of the first month? We have an incredible fact that is offered by the Sefer Yalkut Ruveni in Parshas Lech Lecha, page 168. He says regarding the death of Avram Avinu, the Betira of Avram Avinu, V'ata tavei el avisecha b'shalayim, tikaver b'seva toiva. The pasuk tikaver b'seva toiva. Tikaver begins in a taf, b'seva begins in a beis, toiva begins in a tes, spells out teves. This teaches us that Avram Avinu passed away in Chodesh Teves. This is also brought in the Seder Hadoros. Vayitzav Avram es Yitzchak b'nai sheyishmar mitzvos Hashem. Vayomas Avraham, 15 years in the life of Yaakov and Esav. Avram Avinu died in Teves. Hafla v'fela, how in the world could you say Avram Avinu passed away in Teves? It's against the Gemara Mefureshes. The Gemara Mefureshes in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Amud Beis, going on to Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, says that Rabbi Lezer says the Avos were born in Tishrei and they passed away in Tishrei. Rabbi Yeshua says they were born in Nissan and they passed away in Nissan. But this opinion of Yaakov Ruveni that Avram Avinu passed away in Teves is against both Rabbi Glatstein and Rabbi Yeshua. How could there be a medrash that says that Avram Avinu passed away in Teves? The Gemara brings two opinions, and none of them are that he passed away in Teves. Well, comes the Ben Yoyada, Masechta Rosh Hashanah, and he brings from the Sefer Karnayim, Maimer Vav, that Avram Avinu, in fact, passed away in Teves. And the remez is Ti Kaver B'Seva Toivas Rosh Teves Teves. And the way we reconcile this with the Gemara is because Chodesh Nisan is Koilel all the months of the year. And Chodesh Nisan has days in it that correspond to each month of the year. So when we say that Avram Avinu passed away in Teves, it means he passed away in Nisan on the corresponding day to Teves. Avram Avinu, of course, he passed away in Nisan. But each day of Nisan corresponds to a different month of the year. In other words, for example, the first day of Nisan corresponds to the whole month. The second day of Nisan corresponds to Iyar. The third day of Nisan corresponds to Sivan. The 10th day of Nisan, which is Teves, corresponds to Teves. Says the Sefer Agra Dekala of the Bnei Yissaschar in Parshas Pekudei. This would then explain the language of the pasuk in Parshas Pekudei. B'yoyim hachodesh harishayin be'echad lachodesh. On the day of the first month. Now what does that mean on the day of the first month? On the day of Nisan, that corresponds to the whole month. What day in Nisan corresponds to the whole month? And that is the first day. Be'echad lachodesh. The first day of Nisan corresponds to Nisan. This is the secret of the pasuk. B'yoyim hachodesh harishayin. On the day of the first month, because the first day of Nisan literally corresponds to the entirety of Chodesh Nisan. And therefore comes the Shar Yissaschar, the Munkatcher, and he says this would explain the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, why just because B'Nisan Nigalu, why we also say B'Nisan Asidan Ligael. And the answer is like this. Every month of the year corresponds to a different Shevet. Now the Nasi of Shevet, the Nasi of the month of Nisan is Nachshon ben Aminad of Lamata Yehuda. Because, says the Shar Yissaschar, and he quotes the Chayz of Lublin, that the 12 Nesiim, and each day of the first 12 days of Nisan corresponds to another month of the year. So the first day corresponds to Chodesh Nisan, the second day Iyar, like we mentioned earlier. Then it comes out that Chodesh Nisan is the Chodesh of Shevet Yehuda. And since David HaMelech is from Shevet Yehuda, therefore of all the months of the year, this is the month which is most misugal for Geula, because this is the month of Shevet Yehuda. Comes the Shar Yissaschar in his Mamorim on Chodesh Nisan, a Maimer Shabbos Haggadah Ois Beis, and he says, according to this, we could explain a new reason why it's called Shabbos Haggadah. He says it comes out that the Nes that occurred on the 10th day of the month was Shabbos Haggadah, because that's the day that when they left Mitzrayim. Because we know when they left Mitzrayim on a Thursday, like it says in Seder Olam. So it comes out that the 10th day was Shabbos. And they tied the goat to the legs of the bed. When did they do that? On Shabbos. And now we know the Mitzrayim worshipped the Seh, and their teeth were blunting, and they couldn't say anything to Klal Yisrael. And the firstborn made a war, and Klal Yisrael killed many of them. Now, the 10th day of Nisan corresponds to the month of Teves. Chodesh Teves, what does it say in Sefer Yetzirah about Chodesh Teves? Kashar Gedi. Kashar Gedi. So it's an amazing remez that Shabbos Haggadah corresponds to Chodesh Teves, and the way Chodesh Teves was created, says the Sefer HaYetzirah, is Kashar Gedi, a goat was tied. But moreover, the permutation of the Shem Havaya of Chodesh Teves comes from the pasuk Gadlu Lashem iti u'narayim mashma yachdav. Gadlu ends in a vav, Lashem ends in a hey, et ends in a yud, roimama ends in a hey. So the pasuk of Gadlu is the pasuk that is merames to the Shem Havaya of Chodesh Teves. So since the whole month of Teves comes from the pasuk of Gadlu, and Chodesh Teves corresponds to the 10th of the month, which is Shabbos, it's called Shabbos Hagadol, because Chodesh Teves is merumas in the pasuk Gadlu Lashem iti in Arayim Mashma Yachdav. Vashem Heir Einai, Hashem illuminated to me a beautiful understanding. Another reason, a new reason why it's called Shabbos Hagadol. We know there are many reasons why it's called Shabbos Hagadol. There, in fact, if you look in the Sefer Maggid Harakiah, on page Mem Aleph, we bring in the footnote Ois Beis of Katan Beis from the Sefer Nezer Yosef of Rav Yosef Zeltzer. He brings 39 reasons why it's called Shabbos Hagadol, and he says it could be there even tens of more, maybe hundreds of more, but there are many, many reasons why it's called Shabbos Hagadol. We could say very beautifully, because who passed away on Shabbos Hagadol? According to the Ben Yehoyada, Avraham Avinu passed away in Teves. What does that mean? But he passed away in Nissan. He passed away on the day in Nissan that corresponds to Teves. What day is that? The 10th, Shabbos Hagadol. And we know Avram Avinu is called Ha'adam Hagadol Ba'anokim. In Sefer Yehoshua, Avram Avinu is called Ha'adam Hagadol. Well, if he's called Ha'adam Hagadol, so on the day of his Patira, which is Shabbos, perhaps that is a new reason why it's called Shabbos Hagadol. It's the Shabbos of the Patira of the one individual in Tanakh who's called a Gadol, and that is Avraham Avinu. Now, we learned in the earlier shir from the Shla HaKadosh that on the pasuk HaChodesh Hazel Lachem Rosh Chodashim, that every day of Nisan has a unique status, and that is every day has Kedushas Rosh Chodesh. But now we're learning in what sense does every day have Kedushas Rosh Chodesh, and that is at least the first 12 days, each day is considered like the source and the shoresh of an entire month of the year. And now coming back to the comments of the Avnei Nezer and his Chuvas, where the Avnei Nezer said that the value of the time of Nisan is so great, in that each day, each hour of Nisan is considered like a whole day. And the explanation is as we mentioned, because since each day of Nisan corresponds to a whole month of the year, likewise every hour of Nisan is something like an entire day. Let's end off with the holy words of the Chidushei Harim that describe for us the great value of this time of the year. It says the Chidushei Harim in Parshas Boy, he says, HaChodesh Hazel Lachem. He says, we find in the Midrashim that the koyach is maser biyadenu, everything is nimtza b'rshenu, ve'ilu yadanu mahu ma sheyesh biyadenu lasas. If we would know the great value of this time and what we need to do, lo hayinu mevatlem afilu rega, we would not even waste a second. So from here we learn how valuable the Zman of Nisan is. The analogy I like to give, it's like the blood of the umbilical cord, the blood of stem cell, because that blood is so rich in platelets, it's because that's where all life was created from. So too, the Rebbeinu Shalom recreated our history in the month of Nisan, so it's like that Zman is laden with spiritual nutrients and spiritual energy, and therefore we have to take advantage of every day is like a month. Every moment, every hour is like a day. And if we would realize this, as the Chidushei Harim says, Lo hayinu mevatlem afilu rega, we would not even waste a moment. Okay, so this concludes the second segment, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful day. Bracha v'hatzlacha, and Be'ezus Hashem will speak next Monday. Thank you very much. Kol Tov Selah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.